bold journalism.
But Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
Exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological.
Finding the truth.
And use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
Battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up on the show for you today. The left, the totalitarian left, is trying to take away your guns. They're politicizing Uvalde again. The entire shooting that took place there, it's a tragedy, but they don't let a good tragedy go to waste. Anti-gun protesters descended on Houston to go at the NRA last weekend as a low-life YouTuber, Ethan Klein, called for the NRA to be bombed as well. Yeah, that guy's definitely lost his mind. And by the way, Beto O'Rourke went after Governor Greg Abbott during his press conference last week to grieving parents. Yeah, that's who this guy is. So I went to confront him about exploiting dead children, and we have an exclusive brand new video of his protesters going right after me after I did it. So stick around for that. The left is always after us. We got to push back and go on the offense. All right. And by the way, all my thought criminals out there, Frontlines is now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other streaming services. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a 5-star review right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, smash that like button, hit the notification bell, and share this video everywhere. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere else, please reshare this transmission right now. But before we get into everything, food shortages are just around the corner. And looking to stock up and save money without sacrificing quality, if that's what you're doing, then you need to check out Good Ranchers. Their prices on 100% American meat have remained affordable, and their quality beats the store every single time. So right now, you save money, get steakhouse quality, and donate $50 to TPUSA by visiting goodranchers.com/TPUSA. You'll help make what we do here possible and support American ranches at the same time. Make your $50 donation today. Go to www.goodranchers.com/TPUSA to get the quality you have been missing. They take the guesswork out of the grocery store, and they take your everyday purchases and make them meaningful. Remember to use the code TPUSA to donate $50 to our TPUSA missions. Combat inflation with fair-priced American meat delivered by Good Ranchers today. My name is Drew Hernandez, and you are now on the front lines. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, America. Of course, the far left, the totalitarians, they never let a good tragedy go to waste. So immediately after a horrific situation took place in Uvalde, Texas, where multiple children were massacred by a psychopath, demonic, satanic loser, and a couple teachers as well, immediately the far left pounced on the opportunity in order to politicize it, in order to make it into a situation where they can push their political agenda. Like I said, they never let a good tragedy go to waste. I'm not saying that it's a good tragedy. That's literally how these people think, because that's how they act. I don't sit here and, pay attention to what they say. Of course, I listen to what they're saying, but pay attention to what they do. And I'll say this about the Uvalde shooting as well, is we showed up with our team. We were covering the southern border for multiple days straight all week last week. So shout out to everyone that tuned into our coverage. Please make sure to share those episodes as well. But the shooting took place while we were down there, and it was a horrific situation. People were crying. People were angry. Parents were freaking out. They didn't even know if their children had died or not yet. And while we were there, the night of the shooting, the left was already taking to Twitter, all over social media, politicizing dead children. The same night, not even more than 10 hours after it happened, okay? While we were there in Uvalde, there were parents that were going to the local event or civic center. That's where the local law enforcement was telling the parents to go there to find out whether their child has been murdered or not. And they were at that civic center not even before midnight, before the parents could even find out whether their child survived or not. The far left mobilized and politicized this tragedy immediately. These people are sick and they're deranged. So over the weekend, they did stage. Beto O'Rourke himself showed up, and Black Lives Matter and these far left psychopaths decided to counter-protest outside of the 2022 NRA convention in Houston. So I went down myself to go cover that. But before even the conference took place, You have this psychopath, Ethan Klein, one of the most probably successful podcasts on YouTube. There he is. YouTuber Ethan Klein was calling to bomb the NRA conference on YouTube. Okay? Not just politicians politicizing this, but these far-left woke-tards in the social media sphere that have big followings, they immediately do this. Here's the video of him literally calling to bomb the NRA. Okay, well, there's a video if you guys want to take a look at it on Twitter. You can take a look at it on Elijah Schaffer's Twitter. Just go to Elijah Schaffer. It's a viral video of Ethan Klein literally calling to bomb the NRA. So I decided to go there. I wanted to see what was going to happen. And the Post-Millennial, shout out to the Post-Millennial, they reported pretty accurately on all my reporting last Friday outside of the NRA conference. The National Rifle Association convention returned this year following a hiatus during the COVID pandemic, was met with anti-gun activists swarming the convention in Houston, Texas on Friday in response to the massacre at Robb Elementary School on Tuesday. Drew Hernandez of Frontlines and Turning Point USA captured the scene outside Houston's George R. Brown Convention Hall, which was filled with posters, expletives, and activist anger. Take a look at this video.
Piece of shit! Piece of shit!
It's like these gremlin monsters that just pop out of nowhere. These people don't care about kids. They don't care about little children. They're politicizing dead kids because they immediately show up outside of an NRA convention and they're politicizing dead children when a weapon had nothing to do with why the children died. It's an evil individual that decided to commit such a satanic and heinous crime. But these people, they immediately show up and mobilize, all disgusting, all unhealthy, probably don't take showers because that's who these people are. And they're willing to literally show up and say and do anything to push their political agenda. They're all vile and gross. I mean, this footage is like approaching 1 million views right now because people see these people for who they really are. You see this everywhere. You see it all the time because they get mobilized by the mainstream media. They get mobilized by these mainstream politicians. They hear it all over CNN. Oh, it's such a tragedy. The gun did it. The gun did it. The gun did it. No, an evil person did it. So they get mobilized and they start pushing their political agenda. Is it the NRA's fault? Really? Is it anyone that's pro-2A? Is it their fault? Really? Is it even the gun's fault? Did the gun just wake up and decide to massacre a bunch of children? Does anybody believe this? Well, maybe the mentally ill left does because they live in la-la land and nothing corresponds with reality, so they just show up and they just spew out of their disgusting, filthy mouths whatever narrative they want. They don't care about the kids. They care about their political agenda. They're grifters, they're opportunists, and they show up and they do this stuff, and it's disgusting. It's vile. It really is. You can't sit here and tell me that these people actually care about these kids. Well, I mean, speaking of gun control, if you haven't found out, like, if you can't see by now that these people are so stupid that they are just willing to take all of your guns if you give them the chance because they think that's somehow the answer. But also Antifa was on the ground as well, like openly Antifa, wearing an Antifa shirt, waving an Antifa flag. I decided to literally walk up to this person, interview him, and ask him, are you willing to take guns from Americans? Listen to his answer.
At this point, should we just ban all guns? Would you be willing to ban all guns in the United States? And all guns would be taken away from Americans. If you could do that right now, would you do it?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, there you have it. If Antifa can take your guns, Antifa says yes. If they have the opportunity to take your guns from you, America, Antifa says yes. I would do it. I will do it, because they think it's going to save lives. But is the federal government going to disarm too? Is the administration here in the United States of America? Is local law enforcement? Is big government? Is Big Brother going to disarm too? To save lives? You really think Antifa would disarm as well to save lives? No, this is about taking your guns. It's about taking your Second Amendment right away to defend yourself with a firearm or to defend yourself from a totalitarian, wayward government. And that's what we're facing right now. Now is not the time to disarm. I would argue now is the time to arm, because not only do we have mental illness running rampant in the United States of America, we have become void of morality. We have no standards of right or wrong in the United States of America. Lawlessness is abounding. The police have been defunded. They've been disarmed. There is literally no protection. Now more than ever, you need the Second Amendment to protect yourself and your family and your kids and your local elementary school. It's not the gun's fault. There's a deeper seated issue here, and it's evil running rampant. It's lawlessness that's abounding, and it's the federal government that wants to continue to control your life. So you think that the answer right now is to disarm? When we have ministries of truth coming out, wanting to control what you say. The federal government is trying to control your entire life. The economy is dying. It's falling. It's destroying. Look how totalitarian this country has become. And now is the time to disarm? You are out of your mind if you think that is the answer. For them, it's conveniently the answer. Why? Because all totalitarian regimes have gone down this path, and it only ends one way. They become more powerful, and the people that disarm themselves get slaughtered. Ask China. Ask Venezuela right now. Ask any of these socialist utopias that are amazing. Ask Mexico. I'm going to get to that right now as well, but before we get into that, these racist Beto O'Rourke supporters were standing at the corner in front of the convention center, literally screaming. These were Antifa people, by the way. Literally screaming at black police officers, calling them disgusting pigs, wearing Beto shirts. Take a look.
How do you You're a black cop protecting him! That is disgusting! Those hair on your head!
Oh, but I'm the racist. Drew Hernandez is the racist. Drew Hernandez hates black people. Drew Hernandez is the one that hates minorities. No, it's them. It is literally them. They show up to these political events and they tell black people that they're disgusting pigs with freaking Beto t-shirts on. And it's like they point the finger at you and they gaslight you and they sit there and say, you're the racist. They project on you that you're the white supremacist. It's literally a white person in a freaking Beto shirt calling black people disgusting pigs. Holy crap. It's like, dude, but this is what they do. They gaslight you and they try and project that the other side is racist. Everything that these people accuse you of being, America, okay, you freedom-loving, America-loving individual, everything that they accuse you of being is what they are. And worse. And literally worse. Well, speaking of Beto O'Rourke, I found him. I was talking to the team because he showed up in Uvalde and he pulled that political stunt while Governor Greg Abbott was trying to address the nation that is broken, address the community in Uvalde that is broken because children got massacred. Not even less than 24 hours, not even more than 24 hours, Beto O'Rourke decides to show up in Uvalde and crash the press conference to push his political agenda and stick his finger in Abbott's face and say, this is on you. The blood is on your hands. People were pissed. I talked to residents locally. I asked them, what do you think of Beto? What do you think of what he did? Do you think that was appropriate? They're like, no. They literally said, stay out of Uvalde. That's what they told me. They're like, it was totally disrespectful. That was uncalled for. We don't need that right now. And I said, well, what's your message to Beto? And they said, stay out. Stay out of Uvalde. Because no one needs a politician coming in and politicizing their dead kids. So anyways, The crew will tell you I was kind of like disappointed that I wasn't in that press conference because I would have checked Beto on the spot peacefully. I'm not saying violently or going to do something bad. So Beto decided to speak outside the NRA convention on Friday, and I found him, and this is how it went down.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, Beto, how do you feel exploiting dead kids? How do you feel exploiting dead kids, Beto? Do you care? The parents in Uvalde said they didn't want you there. The parents in Uvalde said they didn't want you there, Beto. What do you say to the parents I talked to yesterday in Uvalde that said they didn't want you there? They didn't want you to do that, Beto. They didn't want you to exploit dead kids, Beto. Why are you exploiting dead kids, Beto? Beto! Beta! Beta! What kind of beta exploits dead children, Beta? Beta!
Don't touch me. Do not touch me.
I'm not.
Dude, you are. You're literally in my face. You guys are.
Oh, yes, yes. Shout out, okay? Now, here's the thing, is this is what we need to do, is we need to confront these people and hold them accountable and get in their face peacefully, okay? Peacefully. And call them out for the crap that they do. These people are willing to politicize dead children. Beto O'Rourke stands on the graves of dead children. Beto O'Rourke is willing to use dead kids to push his political agenda and further manipulate the minds of millions of people, especially in Texas, to try to mobilize them and get them to vote for him. Beto O'Rourke is willing to use dead Uvalde kids to push people to vote for him. So yes, I will confront this evil individual and call him out for doing such a thing. If you agree with that, then make sure that you continue to watch this and share this further. But immediately, you see these NPCs just mobilize. They literally start physically assaulting me. I'm a big boy. I'm fine, okay? I'm okay. I'm not a beta male like Beto, but you can see how immediately he doesn't even acknowledge me. Doesn't even look at me. Oh, he's so big. He's so strong on stage. Everybody loves Beto. He's so bold. Hell yeah, we're going to take your AR-15s. Hell no, you're not. No, you're not. You're a beta. That's what you are. You can't even sit there and look Drew Hernandez in the eye when he's calling you out for exploiting dead kids. That's what this is, and everybody knows it. This guy's a beta male, and he's evil, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's manipulating people. And if I find you, I will expose you. Beware, because this is what I do. Oh, but he's so big and bad on stage and so bold. That's exactly who this guy is. No, he's all scared. He's got his armed security around him. He's got his handlers, a bunch of black people around him that he probably doesn't even pay well because, oh, I'm the racist. But no, he is. They're probably armed. And the police were right there guarding Beto with firearms. Oh, but he's pushing for gun control because it's gun control for you, but not for them. And that's how it works. That's how it goes. They think that you're stupid. They think that you're dumb. And you know what? Millions of people are. Millions of these woke-tard NPC robots are. They literally are dumb. That's why he does this. Because there's millions of NPCs out there that don't even realize that he's on stage calling for gun control while he literally has armed guards protecting him. Holy crap. Sometimes I think I'm crazy. No, these people just live the way they want, and there's millions of you see them right there. They start physically assaulting me. Whatever, I'm a big boy, I could handle it. With their Beto t-shirts on. Isn't it funny how like they accuse us of being violent? They accuse us of being radical. They accuse us of being a threat to peaceful and innocent people, but you show up and call out a politician and like they swarm me like a bunch of zombies like it's World War Z. Speaking of that, here's a woman that lost her mind because I did this. Take a look at this clip.
Beto's got a backbone.
Who, Beto?
Where's your backbone?
Where's yours? How do you feel exploiting dead children?
I don't explain anything.
You guys like exploiting dead children? You guys like exploiting dead children? This is an election. You're good, you're good. These people are starting to assault me, sir. I'm just recording. I'm just recording.
And if you don't realize that children are dying every single day in this city...
How do you feel exploiting dead children?
I'm not exploiting dead
yes,
children.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
You guys just put on political theater in the name of dead kids.
I haven't done anything.
Yes, you did.
You don't know, man.
I literally just watched this whole thing.
You haven't watched me
Join me in getting after it and going out there and meeting the voters who will decide the outcome of this election in the most suppressed and voter-intimidated state in the Union, where so many people have been drawn out of our democracy. We've got to be on their doors.
There it is. Is that not political? Is that not literally politicizing dead kids? Showing up to an event and calling people to vote because dead kids are on the ballot? That's what I'm saying. These people are woke-tards. They're stupid. They're NPCs. I'm literally talking to that woman 30 minutes after Beto just said that. You haven't seen anything. We're not politicizing dead kids. Yes, you are. You guys literally just called to vote with dead kids on the ballot. Vile. These people are. Disgusting. Well, President Biden decided to show up in Uvalde over the weekend, and I'll show you how that went when we come back, so stay with us.
Yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Abortion, I salute you! Women, if you need an abortion, get one!
You said police defund!
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to the next generation. Activate freedom. Join Patriot Mobile.
So President Biden and Jill Biden decided to show up to Uvalde to pay their respects after they already started to politicize dead children in Uvalde over the weekend. This was on Sunday. And the community did have some mixed responses to it. But, I mean, people need to understand when these people do this, it is all to politicize and push a political agenda. Okay, these politicians do not care about you. When President Biden shows up to Uvalde acting like he cares about children, why isn't he down at the southern border? Why doesn't he care about the children that are being raped and exploited by the cartel? Thought he cares about kids. No. It's a political agenda. Well, anyways, the Post-Millennial did report on this accurately. Thank you guys for doing that. But I wanted to show you guys the response from the community, okay? It was so hypocritical because this is a pro-gun control president and the law enforcement presence, okay? We have some footage. Take a look at this. The law enforcement presence was heavy to protect this president. This is huge. There were hundreds of armed police officers, armed guards with their guns outside of the elementary school, outside of the Catholic church that he attended. The armed guard president, okay, the armed presence for this pro-gun control president was huge, okay, because it's gun control for you, but not for them. They're not going to disarm at all because they need to be protected because they're important. Well, what about me? No, I am important. I need to be protected so I can have guns to protect me and my wife. Well, what about me? I'm a human being. No, not you. You're too stupid. You're not responsible enough. You need to disarm while we don't and protect ourselves. Well, anyway, there was a mixed response. About 15 out of 50 to 60 people, okay, only maybe like 50 people showed up. About 15 out of a crowd of 60 cheered for President Biden as he arrived to Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, and were shouting at him, "President Biden, we need help." Take a look. Yeah, do we have that clip you got, Parker, where they're shouting and they're cheering and they're saying, "President Biden, we need help"? If we can get that up, let's throw that up. Take a look, guys. Okay, so that was Governor Greg Abbott. Governor Greg Abbott showed up after President Biden, and he got booed. Now, it's hard to tell why the community was booing Greg Abbott. It could be because of the mainstream media propaganda that's manipulating the minds of people that are trying to get them to think that, you know, the solution is to ban guns. I don't know, Beto O'Rourke did blame Governor Abbott, and maybe there's people that's not thinking clearly that somehow it's Greg Abbott's fault and he's being booed. But what we do know is that it is not his fault in any way, shape, or form, but he was getting booed. And if we can run that clip of President Biden being cheered and that same crowd coming out and saying, President Biden, we need help. Do we have that clip, Parker? Did you guys get that in there? Okay, let's run that. Okay, so also President Biden did attend a Catholic church after he was at the elementary school, and it was pretty interesting. Okay, so when we showed up to this Catholic church, it looked like the Secret Service walked up to us. There was a crowd outside on the left. And the Secret Service walked up to us and they said, the president and his wife are going to come out, and they're probably going to come out and say hi to you guys and shake hands. So everyone flocked behind the police line right there because everyone wanted to see Biden. There were journalists and all this. So when he came out of the church, he started walking towards the crowd, started getting booed hard, and they kept him away from the crowd. It was pretty funny. Take a look.
Do something.
And he just looks totally clueless, absolutely clueless. I mean, this president is just so unaware, has no idea, is so out of touch. Apparently his response was, we will, because they were shouting at him, they were booing him, they were saying, do something, do something, do something. And apparently other reports corroborated that President Biden responded, we will. So you just see this president is so clueless, has no idea, so out of touch with reality. Doesn't even realize that people don't like him. Brandon is just absolutely clueless when he shows up to a community. Okay, whatever reason they're demanding action, it's clear that they don't like him and they're shouting at him very aggressively because they want the president that should be doing something to do something but doesn't do anything. It's unclear if they want more gun control. If they do, that's not a good look. That's obviously not the answer. But it's clear that he's getting booed and that he's not welcome. So the Secret Service had to pull him away from the crowd. And it didn't go well. I mean, the guy just is so old and senile, is so disconnected from reality, has no idea what's going on, is so out of touch, thinks people love him, is sitting there getting booed, doesn't even know how to react, throws up a thumbs up. Thumbs up that I'm getting booed. That's Brandon. That's President Biden for you. I'm getting booed in a town that's suffering from such a horrific tragedy. Let me throw up a thumbs up to all of them. This is what I'm saying. These people don't care. They don't care about you at all, and they never will care about you. They don't care about you or your family. President Biden was also interviewed and just butchered this and is suggesting that he wants to ban high-caliber 9mm handguns. I can't even keep up with this guy anymore. Take a look at this.
A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body. So the idea of these high-caliber weapons is there's simply no rational basis for it in terms of about self-protection, hunting. I remember, the Constitution, the Second Amendment, was never absolute.
The Constitution and the Second Amendment is never absolute. That is an American president, right? President that is coming out and telling the American people that their Second Amendment constitutional inalienable right is not absolute. And a 9mm is a little too far. 9mm too much. They're going to ban it all, dude. They're coming after your guns. They're coming after your Second Amendment right to defend yourself and to defend yourself from a tyrannical government. They want to take away all of it. How do I know that? Because that is what totalitarians do. That is what these regimes do. They politicize these events and they use it as an opportunity to disarm the citizens right before they literally rule their entire lives. Well, my name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Frontlines. I will see you guys next week. We're going to take a break for the next few days. I'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, brought to you by Turning Point USA. Today we are still in Europe. I'm not announcing the location, but we'll be headed home soon, I can announce. Today's top stories. President Biden has come out saying that the Second Amendment was never absolute. And Trudeau has now announced a national freeze on handgun sales across Canada. Next, the Department of Justice will investigate the failed police response to the Uvalde shooting. Third, Unilever CEO tells Elon Musk to relax after calling his ESG rankings a scam. And finally, a story that comes close to where we've been reporting this week, Russia claims that they are ready to help overcome the food crisis if the West lifts sanctions imposed over Ukraine. Putin says in a call with Draghi. All of this and more ahead, Human Events Daily.
So today, we're moving forward. We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
So there you have Prime Minister Trudeau, fresh off the backs of banning the truckers from being able to honk horns in Canada's capital. We now hear him attacking this idea and actually announcing the idea, a ban on the selling, the transfer, or the import of handguns into Canada, a national freeze on handgun ownership. President Biden recently came out and said, talking about 9mm ammunition, that the Second Amendment was never absolute. You know, that's interesting because actually the Second Amendment does include the words "shall not be infringed." You can see it right there in the text. It's not vague. It's not obscure. It's not some reference to 18th century writing that we can't find any connection to today. No, it's not indecipherable. It says right there, "shall not be infringed." Look, here's what's going on. So whenever a mass shooting happens, as horrible as they are, as disgusting as they are, the authorities, particularly on the left, jump to blame the very group of people that had nothing to do with it. They blame lawful gun owners. So you see the problem with that, right? This is the same type of society that says, or the same type of group of people that whenever there's a crime, they say, we have to fix society. They never say, we have to deal with criminals. We have to deal with the criminal element, because they refuse to believe that someone or anybody could choose of their own volition, right, for various reasons, right, to conduct crime. In this case, clearly, the individual involved was mentally disturbed. There's videos now popping up of this kid torturing animals, carrying around bags full of dead cats, was the one video I saw from the New York Post, and stories of him driving around with a BB gun and using it to shoot people and shoot animals, right? It used to be in America that, especially in small towns like this, you knew who the problem people were and you kept an eye on them. You knew who was an issue, and number one, you kept an eye on them, or number two, you said, you know what, this person, they rise to the level of needing institutional confinement, and you would institutionalize them, right? You would send them to a mental institution, a public mental institution where they could be observed, they could be monitored, and hopefully treated, right? My father worked in one of those institutions for nearly 30 years. My grandmother worked there as well. Where I grew up just outside of Philadelphia, we had a large one of these. It was called the Pennsylvania State Hospital in Norristown, Pennsylvania. And so back in the 90s, I saw them slowly dismantling that system and defunding it, breaking it down. And I remember asking my dad, I said, "Dad, what's going to happen to all the people that are inside here? Where are they going to go? Who's going to take care of them?" And he said, "Well, they're going to graduate and they're going to go out." I remember playing Little League in our town when I was a kid, and the baseball field, Aki Field, was actually just across from the mental institution, literally right across the street. There's a big fence outside. But I remember there being a situation where a patient had escaped, and escapees happen from time to time, and it was always the talk of the town. And so I remember my dad saying, you know, when we went to baseball practice or we were playing a game there, just to be careful, to be on lookout, because you don't know what type of person might just be walking by the baseball field, because it's literally right there, right? And that's how it used to be in small towns. That's how it used to be in a town environment, that you knew what was going on, you took care of your own. If you knew somebody was a problem, you kept an eye out for them, or you took steps to deal with the issue. We don't act like that anymore for some reason. We act as if society is to blame for everything that goes wrong, and then you turn around and say, okay, we're going to blame law-abiding gun owners, law-abiding owners of however many 9mm rounds they want, right? I'm not even going to say publicly how many 9mm rounds I have, but guess what? Every single one of them was purchased lawfully, and every single one of them has only ever been used at the range or for otherwise legal purposes, right? Same with all my ammunition and all my firearms. This is something where it has become a cultural touchstone to virtue signal. And then you look at Canada, right? It's almost as if Biden knows that he can't get most of America on board with the things that he's saying. So he goes to Canada, and because Trudeau is another one of these World Economic Forum globalist, technocratic liberals. So what he does is say, look, we can't get anyone in the United States to back me up. So I've got to go to you, and I've got to go to you and act like a vassal state of the globalist American empire. And you need to announce a ban on handguns. You need to hyper signal. You need to hyper signal forward. And right now, and you watch, Australia will do something, the UK will do something, and there's a reason for this. The reason for this is inside the United States, you do not have the same type of appetite for it. Look, I've been over here in Europe for the past 2 weeks. The issue, obviously, the story has come up as I've been here. It's simply seen as a huge difference. It's just looked at differently between the United States and Europe, right? Europeans do not have the same gun culture as the US. But I will say something, having come from Ukraine just now. The people of Ukraine would not be able to be fighting back right now in any way if they did not have access to firearms. If they didn't have that, and you saw the government there was handing out AK-47s like they were candy. The candy on Christmas early on in this. And I don't mean to make light of it, I'm just making a point. Chairman Mao even said this, political power grows from the barrel of a gun. That's where you get your political power from. At the end of the day, it comes down to guns and steel. And the people of Ukraine are fighting back because they know that. I've never seen more AK-47s in one place in my life than when I spent this time in Ukraine. And that audio you hear right there is Biden being booed while visiting Texas this week. The U.S. Department of Justice, according to FoxNews.com, announced Sunday that it's conducting an investigation into the law enforcement response to the mass school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. At the request of the Uvalde Mayor, Don McLaughlin, the U.S. Department of Justice will conduct a critical incident review of the law enforcement response to the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas on May 24th, spokesman Anthony Coley said in a statement. The goal of the review is to provide an independent account of law enforcement actions and responses that day, and to identify lessons learned and best practices to help first responders prepare for and respond to active shooter events. The review will be conducted. Okay, all right, let's just cut through this. Seriously, there need to be lawsuits right now. And those lawsuits need to be done in conjunction with public inquiries, grand juries. Where is Governor Abbott? Why is Governor Abbott not yet said there is going to be a Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas? Let's go. Let's go. You got a problem here. Look, I understand that conservatives are the law and order side. I understand that conservatives are the ones who say that we want to defend society, we want to defend our traditions. That's fine. But guess what? This is not a tradition. This is not how our society should work. You got a problem here. You have an absolute problem. And I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you exactly what it is. You have put police officers in these situations for so long, demonized people, second guessing them, that now we're getting to a point where a lot of the good officers, and I said this last year and I said it in 2020, a lot of the good officers have left the force. They're going to other places, and you're getting people inside these departments that are just not good. They're not good cops. And if you have a situation where you don't have good cops, it leads to stuff like this. I'm sorry. But the answer is not abolishing your police force. The answer is not ending law and order. That would be ridiculous. If you didn't have police, you wouldn't have someone who was able to stop this shooter. They went in there safely and were able to stop the shooter. But unfortunately, because you had idiots running the department, apparently, they were told to not go in at first and don't worry about it because that's a barricade. They thought it was a hostage situation, not an active shooter. Even as they could hear the gunshots going off, the parents were about to run in. That's how bad it got. We shouldn't be in a situation where the parents are even thinking about rushing in. The officers should have rushed in first, period. There's a huge problem in our society. It's a problem of incompetence. It's a problem of immorality, a lack of duty, a lack of sense of urgency, a lack of seriousness. All of this needs to be addressed. And I look to the officials of Texas because I'm going to say this again. I never in my life thought that I would see a group of armed Texans, and I say this as a Yankee out of Pennsylvania, but a group of armed Texans standing around outside 40 plus minutes while a madman was inside a schoolhouse gunning down children. You got a huge problem in our society, a massive problem. Micromanagement, mid-level managers, no one who is willing to step up and have the courage to do the right thing.
You know, we're talking about standards, metrics, indices. I want to address Elon Musk's tweet, and Brian, I'm going to get you to comment on that. Musk tweeting that ExxonMobil finds itself at the top of an ESG ranking and Tesla doesn't belong there. What's wrong with the world?
Thank you. There are about 15 different credible ranking systems of companies right now. And of course, we've looked at how Unilever stacks up on all of them. And on average, we do quite well, but there are a couple where we don't do very well at all. And this is exactly the point of this conversation. You shouldn't be able to pick and choose the index that you demonstrate your credentials against. And so I think Elon can relax because there's plenty of other rating systems out there where I'm sure Tesla will come out absolutely top of the pack. And the real point is we shouldn't pick and choose rating systems. There should be a common standard that we can all use as asset owners, asset managers and companies. And that's exactly the work that Emmanuel's leading, and I think it's an important piece of work.
Well, so that's very interesting. The audio you're hearing there is the Unilever CEO, Alan Jope, telling Elon Musk, hey, you can just relax on ESG. And I'm kind of confused because is he admitting that ESG is a scam in this? Because Elon Musk essentially came out and said that ESG is a scam. So what's ESG? ESG is environmental, social, and governance scores. This is essentially, and we've been talking about this here on the podcast for a long time, about the Great Reset. We're doing a documentary on the Great Reset. Charlie's got the book up at tpusa.com. We went to the World Economic Forum to explain what the Great Reset is, the medical implications of the Great Reset through the WHO. So go and make sure you're checking that out. We will put this documentary out as soon as it is finished. But ESG scores are essentially part of the enforcement arm of the Great Reset, whereas BlackRock and Blackstone, they're the operations arms of the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum. It basically means that you will get more money for your company if you have a higher score. And if you get a higher score because of your adherence to woke values on environmental, social, and government issues. And so what does it say? Elon Musk made the comments as Tesla lost its place on the S&P 500 index for companies in ESG issues. So look at this. Now your rankings your ranking. So now Tesla is no longer a member of, according to this, and this is from the postmillennial.com, Tesla is no longer a member of the S&P 500 because of, quote, ESG issues. Listen to this. S&P Dow Jones Indices head of ESG for North America, Margaret Dorn, wrote in a blog post. Doesn't that sound nice? Look at how many titles this person has, by the way, right? If this was real, she would have one title. We have too many people with titles out there today. Just another issue, but I digress. She wrote that Tesla had a relatively stable score for ESG year on year, but it has been outdone by global industry peers. Listen to this. Tesla was ineligible for index inclusion due to its low S&P DJI ESG score, 3, which fell in the bottom 25% of its global GICS industry group peers. It joins Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson & Johnson, and Meta, which have once again met the index methodology's chopping block. A few of the factors contributing to its 2021 S&P DJI ESG score were a decline in criteria-level scores relating to Tesla's lack of low-carbon strategy 5 and codes of business conduct. While Tesla may be playing its part in taking fuel-powered cars off the road, it has fallen behind its peers when examined through with a wider ESG lens. Listen to that. A wider ESG lens. And what does that mean? Well, that means whatever they want it to mean. They can do whatever they want with it because they're widening the lens more and more. If you do not adhere, if you are not being woke enough, then you can literally make electric cars and still not be good enough. That's what Elon Musk does, right? Remember, this guy was the poster boy of the left and the green movement for a decade plus. He was the guy putting electric cars on the road, putting the charging stations on the road, and getting, the idea was that you were going to get these combustion engines off the road. That was the whole point of Tesla. And so Elon's response is this. Exxon is rated top 10 best in the world for environment, social, and governance, ESG, by S&P 500, while Tesla didn't even make the list. ESG is a scam. It has been weaponized by phony social justice warriors. Actually kind of amazing. Right? It's actually kind of, look at this. This is from Unilever. We shouldn't pick and choose rating systems. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just, you're just arguing about the methodology. No, you keep changing the methodology. The methodology doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense. You realize what they're doing. They're putting political, social, and cultural issues into the corporate space. And this is what I've been talking about for a long time. This is the way they're doing it now. They realize that they can't institute the Great Reset through the ballot box. And so what they're doing is they're instituting it through corporate finance. They realize that if they go into the Fed, they go into BlackRock, they go into Blackstone, they work the ESG scores, they work the indices, they work Dow Jones, S&P, NASDAQ, etc. They will drop your score. They will drop you from these lists if you are not woke enough. So you know that story, and I talked to Alex Clark about this on the spillover like 6 months ago. And I said, look, you understand, why is it that companies seem like they're going woke? And there's that meme out there on the internet of get woke, go broke. Get woke, go broke, right? Okay. But the problem is that's not how the companies are constituted anymore. It's not about making money from your products. I mean, that's part of it, right? But the real idea is propping up your stock price. And if you can prop up your stock price by using investment and getting a higher ESG score, then you have access to funds from BlackRock and Blackstone. And they have markets in the trillions of dollars. They are managing funds worth trillions of dollars, far, far larger than the consumer market. Understand the situation. Understand what point in the movie we are in. They don't need you anymore. These companies exist on paper. They're getting funny money. They're getting, all of this is being printed. And by the way, none of this has stopped. None of this has stopped. None of the quantitative easing, none of the Fed printing. You got 40 billion. We're not even really sure where it's going in Ukraine. I can tell you, I went to Ukraine and I have no clue where the 40 billion is going. None whatsoever. I saw people coming in with tourniquets and body armor, health packs, food, supplies, helmets. But that was all volunteer based. That was all coming in from volunteer organizations. as well as humanitarian aid. A lot of great humanitarian aid organizations. Caritas is the one that I've chosen to support, and I've supported all the way through. I actually ran into some of the people from Caritas at the train station in Poland right before we crossed into Ukraine, and they're there right on the ground. They're right there. But as far as the $40 billion, obviously if it's going directly to a lot of this military aid, we know that's where that's going to be. It's been going to the front lines. But you really have to understand, the people of Ukraine are the ones that it's not touching. And that's the same problem, isn't it? That's the same problem we have here, because it's money that doesn't exist. And it is on paper. It exists on paper. And as far as actual benefits to the people, not much. But benefits to those in power, all over the place. And that's the entire point of the ESG system.
Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all over the world. The two largest grain producers in the world, Ukraine and Russia, are not doing what they usually do, so everything's going up. We saw today's inflation data. 70% of the increase in prices in March came from Putin's price hike in gasoline.
Well, and there's President Biden speaking about how, of course, it's all Russia to blame for the food shortages. It's all Russia to blame for the inflation. It's all Russia to blame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We know where Bidenflation comes from. We know that this situation has started with the money printing that's been going on to their buddies. We've talked about the cotillion effect. How many times have I talked about the cotillion effect? Seriously. It's the idea that those closest to the king benefit at the expense of those further away when the crown injects more gold into the system, right? That was the cotillion effect all the way back in the Kingdom of France in medieval times. It is still the same exact economic effect today. But Russia now has come out and said that it would allow ships carrying food to leave Ukrainian ports if some sanctions were lifted. So we just got back from the city of Odessa. Odessa has been blockaded. Now, what does that mean? Well, of course, Ukraine is the breadbasket, or one of the breadbaskets of Europe. And that means that 20 million tons of grains are stuck in Ukraine amid a global food crunch. The port city of Odessa, Ukraine's largest port, has been blockaded since February 24th, since the start of the war. The Russian Navy, the Black Sea Fleet, has been blockading it. So the city of Odessa, and in Ukraine, they can feed themselves. But obviously, there are trains, but they're few and far between. Ships would be the fastest and most efficient way to get it out. But because it's blockaded, it's gone down to a trickle. So this is from Business Insider. A senior Russian government official said the Kremlin would allow ships carrying food to leave Ukrainian ports in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea have been blockaded since Russia's invasion of February 24th, leaving more than 20 million metric tons of grain stuck in Ukraine, per Reuters. This disruption is exacerbating a world food crunch, as Ukraine accounts for 12% of global wheat exports and 17% of global corn exports. Remember, the world runs on a 90-day food supply. That's it for the entire planet. There are only 9 meals between civilization and anarchy. There are only 9 meals between civilization and anarchy, and the world runs on a 90-day food supply. You go past that, and then you reach the breaking point. You're going to see food riots. You think what you see at a supermarket or at one of these stores on a Black Friday sale is bad. You haven't seen any. Go look at the streets of Sri Lanka right now. Go look what's going on down there. Trincomalee, Colombo. They're rioting in the streets because they can't get food, because they can't eat, because their children are starving. So understand what's going on here. These sanctions and this tete-a-tete are going to go back and forth until there is any kind of rapprochement, until there is any kind of negotiation. That's why Kissinger, of all people, is calling for a negotiated settlement. You've got to find a way. So what have they said? According to Vasily Nebezhny, the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, they would allow a safe corridor for access to the key Odessa port if, but only if, okay, the translation's bad here, but only if sanctions were lifted on Russian exports and financial transactions. Because remember, A lot of the Russian sovereign wealth fund, those US dollars, were frozen. They did not expect that going into this. So that is a key point of economic leverage. But Russia, on the other hand, has two things. They've got black gold in terms of the oil and the liquid natural gas under their surface, as well as their reserves. They've also got their military. And as long as they control those two things, they can be very powerful in that region. This is the entire point, the crux where we're at. So is it worth it? Is it worth it? Russia, of course, claims that Ukraine mined the ports, not us. There was a corridor, but they're not using it, et cetera, et cetera. So they're blaming it on them, back and forth, back and forth. In fact, while we were in Odessa, we actually saw a sign. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the podcast yesterday, but we saw a sign on the beach in Odessa that said, "Warning, mines," right at the local public beach in downtown Odessa, that do not go on this because there are mines on the beach. Now, that could be real. That could be a psyop. We're not sure. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going on that beach. The leaders of this situation need to come back and figure out a way to come back to the negotiating table. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba hit back at the suggestion, calling it clear blackmail, and stated, "You could not find a better example of blackmail in international relations," Kuleba told the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday. "If anyone is buying it, I think there is a problem with that person, and we shouldn't waste too much time trying to understand why that person is making that point." So again, as this war continues, more and more people are going to suffer. And that's it. That's all the time we have today for Human Events Daily. Remember our promise, our oath, our solemn vow to you: be good, be brief, be gone. Your homework for us: share this out with just one of your normie friends, and leave us your 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I've been reading some of the comments coming in on yesterday's podcast now, the reviews. I really appreciate everybody sharing that. Very, very overwhelmingly positive reviews. I was about to say we'll do it again, but we'll do it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens about doing it again. But I was worried about the audio, right? Because we're literally recording this on a Soviet-era train traveling through the night across southern Ukraine, and I was worried about the audio from the clacking of the rail lines, the metal, and the wind coming through, because the windows weren't really fastened all the way. They weren't sealed. So what I did was I found an empty compartment on the train, pushed the window as closed as shut as possible, and then taped over the window just to try to make the audio sound, the background sounds, muffled, make it de minimis, so that it would really just add kind of to the atmosphere of it. But I was hoping that it wouldn't actually overwhelm the sound of the microphone. And that's all I've got here is a microphone and a laptop. And fortunately we bought a local SIM card, and 4G was available throughout southern and western Ukraine. So on 3 networks, Vodafone, LifeCell, and Ukrainstar. And so we were able to get that out. I literally uploaded it from the train back to the folks on our team back in the US, and they were able to produce that, clean up the audio a little bit. So really appreciate that. Producer Mike, producer Shah, everything that they did to make that podcast come out. What did we talk about today? President Biden saying the Second Amendment was never absolute, and Trudeau implementing a national freeze on handgun sales across Canada. The Department of Justice to investigate police response to Uvalde shooting. The Unilever CEO telling Elon Musk to relax after he called ESG rankings a scam, and Russia standing ready to help overcome the food crisis, but in exchange for the West lifting sanctions imposed over Ukraine. Putin in call with Draghi. But before we go, it's time for today's moment of history. May 31st, 1862. During the American Civil War, the Battle of Seven Pines occurred as Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston's army attacked Union General George McClellan's troops in front of Richmond, Virginia, and nearly defeated them. Johnston was badly wounded, and Confederate General Robert E. Lee then assumed command, replacing the wounded Johnston. Lee renamed his force the Army of Northern Virginia. And this was one of the events that led to Lee becoming essentially the overall military commander of the Confederates. Today is May 31st, 2022, Anno Domini. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
This is your brain. This is your brain on socialism. Any questions?